Hello, my beautiful friends. I am Laurel Bleadon-Maffei with Illuminating Souls, welcoming you to this episode of Sleepy Bedtime Blessings, a podcast designed to help you rest, relax, and fall asleep, all while deepening in your connection with your beautiful team of angels who love you so. If we're meeting for the first time, I am an angelic practitioner, a spiritual teacher, and an encourager of souls. I just love saying that. I love getting to do this as my work in the world. I feel so blessed. I offer one-on-one angel sessions, soul mentoring, and a variety of classes. I offer a new class about every 6 weeks or so, and my classes take place over Zoom. And usually there are anywhere between 4 and 10 people, so they're intimate in size. So if you have been considering joining one of my classes, it would be a blessing to have you with us. And if you visit my website, illuminatingsouls.com, you'll have 2 different opportunities to sign up for my mailing list. The first is at the very top of the homepage, and that is for my main mailing list. And if you sign up for that, you'll get all of my announcements about angel session availability and classes. Further down on the homepage, you can also sign up for my daily inspiration email blast, and you will get an inspiring email from me every weekday. And just so you know, if you sign up for the daily inspiration email blast, you will automatically get all the other announcements, so you don't necessarily have to sign up for both. But if you want the daily emails, sign up for that mailing list, and that's further down on my homepage. My homepage is very short, so you don't have to scroll very much, I promise. I also have a Facebook page, Illuminating Souls, where I post daily there, and sometimes I'll post videos. So lots of ways we can connect. But for now, the angels and I are here to co-create a beautiful sanctuary of light where you can rest and replenish, connect with the wellspring of divine love that is here for you. I know some of you listen during your waking hours, and many of you do use this as a sleep podcast, as a sleep aid. And so if you do want to begin using this to help you fall asleep, here are my suggestions. Some people listen as they're getting ready for bed. It's sort of a pre-sleep ritual. For me, as a sleep podcast listener, I get ready for bed and then I get into bed. I love getting into bed. It's one of my favorite times of the day. I love my waking hours, but I love getting into bed at the end of the day. It's just, there's something that is so delicious about it. So I get into bed and I arrange all of my pillows and covers because I sleep in a cocoon of covers and pillows. It's my favorite way to sleep. And I use wired earphones. That's the wired earphones you get when you buy an iPhone. And I pick out a sleep podcast episode. I use the sleep timer on the Apple Podcast app, so I usually will set it for either 45 minutes or for when the podcast ends. And then I turn the volume down lower than I would if I were listening to an audiobook, because I'm not trying to pay attention or hear every word. Instead, I'm trying to listen just enough so it distracts my consciousness from all of the busy, waking thoughts that it might engage in when I'm trying to fall asleep. So without a sleep podcast, I might be running through what happened that day, regurgitating, right, a conversation I might have had. My mind can be a busy place sometimes. So by giving my consciousness an invitation to shift and listen to the sleep podcast, it creates a quieter space and makes it very easy for me to go to sleep. I am almost always asleep within about 20 to 30 minutes. Last night was an exception. I went to bed super early because I was so tired, and I woke up and I thought it was the middle of the night because I had been sleeping so deeply. And I noticed the television was still on. My husband watches TV when he goes to sleep. And I noticed that my husband wasn't in bed because I turned the TV on for him when I go to bed so he doesn't have to turn it on and then startle me. So I turn the television on and I turn down the volume and I leave it on while I'm going to sleep because I go to sleep before he does. Not that you need to know all of this, but I'm just trying to share with you what happened last night. And the TV was on and my husband wasn't in bed, and I thought, what is he doing up this late? And then I look at the clock and it was only 9:30. And I thought, wow, I'm in some weird sleep cycle right now. So I turned to another sleep podcast. So I might turn on a sleep podcast multiple times in one sleep cycle. I was up again at 3 a.m. and I went back to the sleep podcast so that I could at least be kept company if I wasn't going to sleep, but I did fall asleep. So I invite you to find what works best for you. You might have to try a couple of different methods until you figure out what is in alignment for you. I also have to give a shout out to what I'm listening to right now, which I've shared with you before, is the Sleepy bookshelf. And right now, the host, Elizabeth, is reading the book Heidi. And if you had asked me before I started listening to her episodes on Heidi, I would have told you that I had read the book and seen the movie. But now that I'm listening, I don't think I've heard this story before. I think growing up, Heidi was so iconic that I just felt like I knew what it was. And I think somewhere in my younger years, Heidi and Pippi Longstocking archetypally overlapped somehow. I can't quite figure it out, but I realized I don't think I've ever read the book Heidi. So I'm thoroughly enjoying it. I keep going back to episodes, so if I fall asleep partway in, I rewind it, so the next time I try to go to sleep, I can listen to a little bit more. I'm now caught up, and I'm eagerly awaiting for tonight's episode to drop so I can hear the next episode. I think there's only 2 more left, and then we'll be done with that book. But I'm really enjoying it. It's a very sweet book. Although it is also, parts of it are really hard because the adults make stupid decisions at some point, and it aggravates me. But anyways, Heidi is what I'm listening to, and I also listen to my sleep podcast, Total Bonus. I create a podcast that also helps me fall asleep because I too tune in to the love of the angels while I'm listening, and I get soothed, and I love the story times, even if they're my own stories, or I'm reading something out of a magazine. It delights me and it helps me fall asleep because there's a consistent rhythm of vibration and experience that I curate here that supports me, and if you're listening, hopefully supports you as well. So as I record this, it is early morning. I do try to record these early in the morning because the world is still a bit quiet and I'm quiet. I've tried recording these in the afternoon, but my energy is very different in the afternoon. It's like I've engaged in the world a lot, and it's harder for me to come into this quiet, sweet space. So I love recording these episodes for you when I'm still in the quiet of the early morning. I'm someone who loves early morning. I never thought I would be this person. My father was always an early morning person. He would fall asleep in the chair by 7 or 8 o'clock. We used to make fun of him for that, right? It's like, oh, Daddy's asleep already. But he'd be up by 4 in the morning. And he loved his early mornings. He loved the quiet. And I never thought I would be like that. But somewhere around the time that I was at University of Santa Monica and I found the beauty of early morning, my circadian rhythm shifted. And ever since then, I am an early morning person. It's when my energy is the best. It's when I feel most connected to the angels. I mean, I feel connected throughout the day. It's not the only time, but it certainly is the time for me when it feels that the stillness in the world is advantageous to the experience of divine connections. So it's early morning as I record this for you. And I'm so grateful to open my day in this beautiful sanctuary of light with you and for you. So I want to invite you to get comfortable and cozy in whatever way works best for you. And I invite you to take some nice deep breaths in and out. And I'm going to call the angels in. They're already here, but I love sharing the ritual with you. And beautiful angels on high, I am so grateful for this opportunity to come together with you, and I ask that you join us here. I know you are already here, and I ask that you amplify your presence, the divine love that you embody. Allow us to feel it, to sense it, to know it, to be true and present with us in this breath and in each breath that follows. Angels, I ask that you clear our energy fields through the heart of God, helping to remove anything that feels too heavy for us to bear, to carry ourselves, to send healing light in all dimensions of time, but any misunderstandings, any challenges, any difficulties, clearing these so that we can be in the awareness of the beautiful divinity that each of us embodies. Help us come into the purity of light, the invitation to come into our wholeness, being centered in the divine light that we are. And angels, I ask that you send each one of us healing light, that you know what is transpiring in our hearts and in our lives. So I ask that you transmit beautiful, healing, calming, soothing energy to support us where we are, where we have been, and where we are going. So dear ones, just take some nice deep breaths in, allowing the light of the divine to be with you now. And the love the angels are broadcasting for you is so beautiful. Sometimes I imagine and see it as a beautiful, soft pink light. So I invite you to imagine, allow it to be so that the space you are in is being filled with a soft pink light that is filled with divine love that has been calibrated just for you. And just breathe. Divine love is a beautiful elixir of healing and inspiration. And this light, this love, it travels throughout your home. It travels to all that you love, all that love you. It ripples. This love just grows and travels where it is needed. But for now, we focus in your heart chakra, your solar plexus. You just breathe this love in right now and allow the angels to help replenish you, to help replenish your light battery as you rest. You are such a precious, beautiful, beloved soul. We are so deeply grateful for the gift of you. You are precious in all this world, and the world is better because you are here. I am so deeply grateful for the gift of you. And I invite you to breathe. Just breathe and allow the light to be with you now. That in this moment there is nothing you need to do. The invitation is to simply be. And I feel the love the angels have for you. It is profound. It is deeper than the ocean. It is brighter than the sun. The angels are here for you now. So if you have prayers and intentions that you wish to share with them so they can amplify what it is you desire, what it is you seek support with, share this with your angels and God, and they will hear your prayers and support you on your path. And ripple this love wherever it is needed. So I'm going to join you in this. In this moment, I too will bring my prayers into my heart. And I invite you to do the same. And just breathe. You don't even have to give them a voice. Just vibrationally bring them into your heart, and the angels will take it from there. And breathe, knowing it is so, knowing that your prayers have been heard and received, knowing that you are loved, knowing the support you seek is already with you and traveling to you. It will take form in new ways in the days and weeks to come. Things are in motion in your favor. But for now, we invite you to receive and rest and be. And while you rest, your angels will be with you. They will take good care of you. They will watch over you. And while you rest, I'm going to share some stories with you. So for story time, I haven't quite decided what I'm going to call this, but it has to do with bad marketing. Marketing faux pas and marketing awfulness. And I'm going to share with you where the seed for this story time came from with the first story. So The first story I'm going to share with you is just what I think is a marketing faux pas that makes me giggle. So it's not a horrible thing. It's more one of these things that says, what are they thinking? Really, you guys thought that was a good choice, but I still love the company. I still love their product. I still use it. I'm still all good with everything. It's just more one of those choices that made me laugh. And I'll share with you why that is. The second story I'm going to share with you is one that in Yiddish I would say oy vey, oy vey. What are you thinking? And I was both frustrated as a consumer, and I also found humor in it. And I have metaphorically kissed and made up with the brand, but it's just one that I'll never forget. The third one is one that incenses me. It makes me nuts, and I will not do business with this brand, and you'll understand why. And then the fourth one is an old story, but one that will give you some insight into marketing. So let me first share with you why I'm so fascinated by marketing. And it's because I used to work in marketing for home video. I worked for a home video company, and I worked in marketing, and we were a very small company. And so it wasn't unusual for 6 to 10 of us sitting in a room to decide how we're going to market a product. There's a lot that goes into marketing. But at least back in the day, at the end of the day, it's human beings making decisions, making choices. And so that's where this conversation comes in, that somewhere in a room somewhere, a group of people agreed to these decisions. And I find that fascinating. So it's not marketing that we experience today with social media or Amazon, where there are these giant algorithms that process all the data points and then make choices for us, independent of human decision. I'm talking about old school marketing, where a group of people sit in a room and make choices. That's what I'm talking about here. Okay, and I just need to say, even though it's early morning, there is a dog in the neighborhood that is barking, and every time I go to mute my mic and pause for it to bark, it stops. So if you hear a periodic bark, I apologize. I will try to edit out the worst of it. So if you hear an occasional bark, just chalk it up to ambient sound. So the first one makes me laugh, and actually this is the one that was the catalyst for this episode. And I started remembering it when I was doing the crafting episodes, and I was talking about my passion for yarn. So back in 2020, when I started to do my prayer blankets and prayer shawls for people, I really came upon a yarn that I love that I found at Walmart. And it's by a company called Premier Yarns. And the type of yarn, it's called Premier Puzzle Yarn. So it's a variegated yarn, which means it changes colors in the strand. And the color that I loved, no surprise at all, involved purple. Purple and a little turquoise, and I just thought it was gorgeous. And so I bought it. And I got it home, and if you don't buy yarn, what you might not know is that each different color or colorway, as they use with yarn, has a different name. So the red might be called lipstick red, right? A blue might be called ocean. So they have different names, and that's how you identify what color yarn you're buying. So I wanted to get more of this yarn, and I flipped over the skein, and I found that the name of the color that I was using is Hangman. And I thought, oh, this can't be right. Why would a yarn company that is marketing yarn to crafting women call a yarn hangman. I was completely flummoxed by this. I was like, is the red one called assassin? Right? Like, plague? How are they naming their colors? So I went into their website to find that each of the colors is named after a game. So there's crossword, there's hopscotch, there's marbles. So different games you might play as a child determined what they called the colors. So hangman, they're not talking about the dark association of hangman. They're talking about that game we used to play as kids on a piece of paper with our friends. The reason I wanted to start off this episode with that is what I can't get over is in a room somewhere while they were naming these colors, and they had a list of names that no one said, hey guys, I totally get hopscotch and crossword. I'm thinking maybe we should take out hangman. I'm thinking the middle-aged woman at Walmart will not understand in an isolated incident why we are naming our color hangman. Why that conversation didn't happen, or if it did, why that person was overruled, I have no idea. But to quote the song, in the room where it happens, you would hope someone would have said, I don't think we should have a colorway named hangman because it might get lost in translation. So I still buy the color yarn. I think it's wonderful. No harm, no foul. I'm not offended. I still shop with Premier Yarns. The Premier Puzzle yarn is still one of my favorite yarns to work with. They have since abandoned the game naming strategy. So now I buy one called Bloom, which is gorgeous. It's pastel, beautiful. Another one named Citrus. Again, gorgeous, vibrant colors. But it all started with Hangman for me. So that's my first what were they thinking marketing story for you. The next one comes to you courtesy of a brand I'm sure you know, especially if you're in the United States, called Chobani. How many of you have had Chobani yogurt? So, back in the day, somewhere around 2013, 2014, Chobani yogurt helped drive the U.S. mainstream market for Greek yogurt. I say it that way because Greek yogurt has been a thing for thousands of years. It's an awesome yogurt. But Chobani started making and marketing Greek yogurt for the mainstream U.S. market. And some of the things that they used as their marketing devices was it had more protein than other forms of yogurt. So if you were used to buying the little Dannon cups or the Yoplait cups, the amount of protein they had in it was much less than what you would get in Greek yogurt with Chobani. I know this because I was protein driven in the day. So my husband and I were big consumers of Chobani yogurt. And I forget what the calorie count is because I don't think I really cared. But it had almost 20 grams of protein. Now my memory is really fuzzy on this, so I might be off. Don't quote me on this. But I just seem to remember it was a substantial enough amount of protein that we loved consuming the product. Okay, so now it's November, December-ish of 2014. Must have been December because it was around the holidays. And I always compulsively checked the expiration dates on my yogurt because it might sit in our refrigerator for a week or two before we ate it. And I hated buying yogurt that was going to expire in 3 days. So I was doing my usual purchasing habit of reaching far back on the shelf to get the latest date, and I notice in my hand that the one that has the earlier date is bigger than the one with the later date. The cups are not the same size. One is 6 ounces and one is 5.3 ounces. And yes, the calorie count is less, but so is the protein count. Same amount of money. And I'm thinking, And now we do a lot of this downsizing, right? The cereal boxes are getting smaller. Everybody does this. So I'm not really shaming Chobani for this. Everyone does this in packaged goods. I happen to be aware of the moment that it happened. But that's not the part that I'm going to share as a marketing debacle with you. So I'm thinking this is not good. So I buy as much as I can of the 6-ounce Chobanis, which I think only took me through the first week in January. And I go over to Chobani's Facebook page to say, what is happening? And this is where the debacle comes in that I also think is really, really funny. So it must have been right around Christmas. And the reason I say this is there was no way that Chobani's A-team was in the house when this happened. Because as people started going to their page to complain about the decrease in the size of Chobani yogurts, this was their party line. They didn't come out and say this is a cost-saving measure. We have decided that instead of raising the price of our yogurt, we have decreased the size of the yogurt so that we don't have to raise prices on you. And by the way, it brings us in alignment with industry standards. That would have been a marketing message I wouldn't have been happy about, but I could have respected. Now, before I tell you what their messaging was, I also have to tell you that other market leaders were selling yogurt in 5.3 ounce cups. At some point, the downsizing had started across the industry, and 5.3 ounces was becoming the industry standard. Much to the chagrin of the consumers, might I add. I would have been happy to spend another 20 cents on a cup of yogurt if I could get more quantity in a single serving. But nobody asked me. So here's where the bad marketing messaging comes in. The messaging that started coming out of Chobani's Facebook page, whoever was behind the scenes, was that we reduced the size to avoid consumer confusion. Since other market leaders are at 5.3 ounces, to make sure that our customers would not be confused, we have reduced the size. So the key part of that messaging was they reduced the size so that I, as a consumer, would not be confused. Terrible messaging, right? Please don't pretend that you're doing me a favor here. And the reason that I found this so funny was I was watching this unfold in live time. Wes and I were both watching this. And I have to believe there was some marketing intern that was assigned to monitor Chobani's Facebook page over the Christmas holiday while everybody else was on vacation. So this was 2014, because I went back and I looked. I did a search. It was December of 2014. And I said to Wes, oh my God, there's a car crash happening on Chobani's Facebook page, a metaphoric car crash, because everyone's really mad. And this person keeps doubling down, like somewhere they had been given the party line that Chobani did this to avoid consumer confusion. So those of us that were engaging in this conversation were like, oh, I'm so glad you did this because I'm so confused. I'm wandering up and down the yogurt shelves, uncertain of the complexity of the purchase I must make now. That I can't possibly do the math in my head and understand the complexity of why Chobani yogurt has a bigger cup than Dannon. And oh, by the way, Chobani, up until this point, your marketing has consisted of you shouting from the rooftops that you have broken the mold, that you are a trailblazer, that you have opened us up to a whole new world of yogurt options. And if you are a trailblazer, can you not be the trailblazer that continues to give us 6 ounces rather than acquiescing to the perception that we are so profoundly confused at the marketplace that we would not consider continuing to buy from you? So whoever this was behind the scenes on their Facebook page kept trying to put out the controversy by saying we're trying to alleviate confusion in the marketplace. We don't want you to be confused when you compare us to another brand. And then we would chime in saying, we're not comparing you to another brand. Don't you remember? You are it. You are unique. You are the trailblazer that has brought Greek yogurt to mainstream marketplace. We are not confused. We know who you are. We know your product. We love your product. And we want to continue buying from you at 6 ounces. And this poor intern, I'm calling them an intern. Maybe they weren't. Maybe they were the vice president of marketing. I don't know. It felt to me like it was an intern. Just kept trying to double down on this messaging. Now, for anyone who's ever been in marketing of packaged goods, you know that when these things happen, you have a meeting really quick. And you're like, our messaging isn't working. What do we do? And that did not happen until after the holidays, well into January. Now, they still talked about they were doing this to avoid marketplace confusion, but at least somebody who was a vice president at the company started to rework their messaging. I just will never forget that because it was such a funny conversation where all of us who are Chobani fans were saying, we're not confused. We can do math. We understand how to read a label. We are not wandering the aisles, completely perplexed by the state of the yogurt industry. We love Chobani. We want to buy it in 6 ounces. I actually think Chobani would have been heroes if they said, we're sticking with the 6 ounces. We're just going to raise you a nickel. Like, how much could it actually have been? But I digress. I rarely buy Chobani anymore, just so you know. It's not my brand. But it sort of broke brand loyalty for me when that happened. I thought, well, if they don't care about me, I don't care about them. And it's interesting, right, our relationship to brands. Which brings me to my third one that I want to share with you. And this is one that incenses me and has for years. It has to do with a plus-size clothing company. As you know, I'm a big girl. I'm a big person. I wear plus-size clothing, and I have for most of my life. Now, up until probably the last decade, maybe, it was the industry norm to show thin, normal-sized models wearing plus-sized clothing, which is horrible to do. And that would require an awful lot of clothespinning, pinning, manipulation behind the scenes to get these size 6 and 8 women into these larger clothes. Thankfully, for the most part, brands don't do this as much anymore. They still tend to show clothing on models in the mid-size plus range, 14, 16, 18. Not a lot of brands will show models in extended sizes, 24, 26, 30, 32. But this one brand in particular is the one that I loathe for this practice. And I know that is very strong language. The bigger brand, the parent company that owns these other brands is Full Beauty Brands. But they first came onto my radar with their catalog called Romans. Now, if you are plus sized, you have likely received this catalog at some point because people buy mailing lists, which is going to be our fourth story, but I'm still here with Romans. And Romans, their clothing line is not hip and trendy. Their clothing, to me, is made for middle-aged and older, heavier women who maybe want to look nice but are not profoundly fashion forward. So it's not uncommon to see a caftan, a muumuu, right? Resort wear. I'm not making fun of these clothes. Listen, I'm 61 years old, but I still don't wear muumuus, but I'm just saying, right? I want to look cute still. But what they do is they show these clothes on very young, beautiful, thin models. And it's ridiculous. There is no way that this girl or woman, I'm sorry if I'm using the wrong aging noun, would ever wear those clothes. Go ahead, look up a Romans catalog online and you tell me if those models would ever actually wear those clothes, and those clothes are not in their size. So that this day and age that Romans is still doing this maddens me. And Full Beauty Brands, who owns Romans and Women Within, and purchased one of my favorite plus-sized brands, Catherine's, engage in this behavior across all of their brands. Now some of their brands use models that are size 12 or 14. And listen, lots of love to women who are size 12 and 14, but that's still not representative of the spectrum of plus size clothing. Like, I'm a size 24, 26. I would like to see what clothing looks like on someone who's my size. It is helpful for me. So if you go to the parent company's homepage of Full Beauty Brands, tell me if the visuals to you indicate they're serving the plus size market. I just did this the other day in preparation for this episode. And there's nothing on that to me that says that they're marketing to me. Versus other brands, Macy's, Lane Bryant, Kohl's, Target. You will find larger women modeling their clothing. So, what has puzzled me over the years is somewhere there is a room where this decision is being held up. It's an Indiana-based company. Somewhere there is a room where human beings are continuing to make the decision and to double down on their choice that they are going to use regular-sized models to showcase their clothing lines. It's abhorrent. This is a multi-million-dollar company, and they are refusing to acknowledge and reflect the truth of their client base. It makes me nuts. And as somebody who used to be in marketing, I just want to go to their home company if I lived anywhere near Indiana and say, I'd love to talk to you. What is happening in your meeting room? What is going on in your meeting room? And are you doing research? And what is your research telling you? Is it really telling you in this day and age that plus size clothing consumers want to see the clothing that they might purchase and wear modeled on young, thin women? Because how can you possibly be involved in this marketplace and believe that this is what we want? So, this is one that really gets my goat, as you can tell. So, I used to love Catherine's as a plus size clothing store, but over the pandemic, they wound up getting sold to full beauty brands, and their brand has since changed, which makes me so sad. So I will still go onto eBay or Poshmark and see if I can buy some of their older clothing, which I loved, but I will not buy from them anymore because I will not give them a penny of my money because I think what they do is horrible and I'm angry with them. Okay, fourth story. This will be a good one to end on because in some ways it's funny and horrible all at the same time. So this would have been somewhere in the 90s. So again, I have a background in marketing. I know about list buying. So what list buying means, and this was especially true before social media and Amazon algorithms, that if you were selling some kind of housewares, let's say you're a small company and you wanted to sell housewares, and you would go to a list broker and you might want to license, buy a subset of Crate and Barrel's list. You might say, I'd like to purchase a subset of Crate and Barrel's catalog list of women who are in these urban areas. So it can get very, very specific. And when you license the list, you don't own the list now. You send whatever it is that you're going to market to this list. So let's say a catalog, you would send that to the list broker and it would get approved. So ultimately, the list owner would have approval rights over what is getting sent to their list. And you would have the ability to use it for one mailing or two mailings. All of these specifics would be worked out upon purchase. So very complex and well guarded. So if you were the list manager for a big brand, you would care about what was ultimately getting mailed to your customers. So back in the day, if you ever placed an order over the phone and someone said, in the upper right hand corner is a code on your mailing label, what is it? They would enter that into their database because then they would know, is this a list we want to buy again? So that's how it was done back in the day. So, setting the stage for this particular marketing faux pas, I receive a catalog by mail addressed to me. I was Laurel Bleadon at the time. I was not Laurel Bleadon-Maffei to Laurel Bleadon. I lived on the west side in an apartment. I ordered from places like Pottery Barn and Crate and Barrel, so kind of on trend, semi-urban Los Angeles dweller. I get a hunting catalog. A hunting catalog about guns, deer urine, knives, camouflage, like the whole shebang on if you were somebody who hunted, you would be delighted by this catalog. I am horrified. I'm thinking, what list have I gotten on that they think I am their customer? Because a lot of decision goes into sending out these catalogs because it's expensive. So I know enough about marketing at this point to know that something has happened that shouldn't have happened. So I call the hunting company and I said, I received one of your catalogs and I would like to know how you got my name. The person was likely appropriately apologetic and said, I'll take you off our mailing list. And I said, no, that's not good enough. I want to know what list you purchased. And she said, well, we can't tell you that. I said, of course you can. See this number in the upper right-hand corner? This is going to tell you what list you purchased to get my name. I would like to speak to your vice president of marketing. And I can be quite authoritative when I want to be. So somehow I got transferred. I don't know if they were a vice president or a director, but I got transferred to someone who could tell me what that code represented. The person apologized and looked at the code, and I can't remember which catalog it was, but it was either Sharper Image or Hammacher and Schlemmer. I forget how to say their name, but both were high-end eclectic electronics catalogs, of which have nothing to do with hunting. Like, there's no universe in which that overlapped. There's no Venn diagram where those overlap. And I said to him, it was a guy, I said, so a couple things I just want to have a conversation with you about. So first off, you've invested marketing dollars in purchasing this list. And you may want to really think about if that was the best choice for your brand. Because I don't know what you're thinking in what universe if I'm purchasing fun electronics from Sharper Image that I would be interested in hunting. You guys made a bad choice, and you've now spent money printing your catalog and paying for postage and sending it to me, and you've wasted your money. This is a bad choice. And he apologized and said, thank you for your feedback. But I wasn't done yet. I then went down the rabbit hole to find out who, at whatever the company was, I'm saying Sharper Image, it might not have been them, but it was one of those. It was Hammacher and Schlemmer if they were still in business, even if I'm saying their name wrong. But I called them and I said, I'd like to talk to the person in marketing who manages your list rental. See, I'm dangerous when I have a little bit of information. And I somehow got on the phone to the right person. And I said, are you the person who's responsible for your list rental? And they said, yes. You know, they have a broker, but ultimately they manage that relationship. I said, well, I need to tell you that whether it was your list broker or someone within your own organization approved this hunting catalog company to purchase your list and send me a hunting catalog. And I don't think that's appropriate. If you want to sell your list to somebody who's selling high-end electronics, even if I might not be interested, I understand the Venn diagram of that. That makes sense to me. But I feel like you've betrayed me as a customer. And I'm not saying no one who buys from these companies are hunters. I'm not at all slamming hunters here. I said, but I live in Los Angeles. I live in the urban area of Los Angeles. And I am a woman in my 30s, unmarried. I'm liberal. In what world am I a customer for a hunting magazine? There's nothing in my history that would indicate that this is who I am. And they got very apologetic. I was so mad. And they got very apologetic and they said they'd look into it. So one of the things that gets me crazy is when people are not good at what they do. They should have never allowed the hunting company to purchase this part of their list. Now, it would be different if I lived in an area where hunting was popular. My husband and I spent a lot of time in central Washington where people hunt. I don't know that I would be too offended if I received some sort of hunting marketing information if I lived in an area where people are getting hunting licenses and hunting season is something people pay attention to. But I promise you, in my neighborhood of Beverly Hills adjacent, that would be in the vast minority of people. A lot of my marketing background has to do with birds of a feather flock together, which now, in terms of algorithms on social media and Amazon and everybody else, the computers do all of that, or whatever that electronic genie is, does that. But back in my day, it was human beings. We made those choices. And so we would have these big conversations. For instance, when I worked for the home video company, one of the brands that we marketed was PBS Home Video. PBS viewers and consumers, they have their own personality. There's a psychographic archetype that can describe that cluster of people. Now, it's a big cluster, but we would give serious thought to how do we reach them? What kind of conversations do we have with them? How do we take good care of them? How do we nurture this relationship? All of that is really, really important. So I went down the rabbit hole when I received this catalog, and I was like, okay, listen, everybody. Hunting catalog, company, list owner company, we need to do a little refresher course in Marketing 101. Bad job on both of you. I hope you learn from this. And I also have to laugh at my arrogance in thinking that I knew better than they did, but I did. I thought there's no way that they are good at what they do because this was a ridiculous choice. And then to Full Beauty Brands, total Razzie Award to you. What a disservice you are doing to your brand and your clothing designers and your customer base. You have the opportunity to become the hero of this marketplace because you carry extended sizes. Extended sizes are not always easy to find. And if you did a brand overhaul and began modeling your extended size clothing on women who are the actual sizes that you sell, you could have a profound healing effect in the plus size clothing world. And you have just dropped the ball at every turn and show no signs of giving a hoot about your customer base. Okay, sorry, I'm getting very impassioned here. Chobani, no harm, no foul. I totally get why you did what you did. I just have to laugh over the marketing hiccups that were taking place on that Christmas holiday from 2013 to 2014. That was really funny. And to my premier yarn people, I love your yarn. Love your yarn. Please get the newer colors of puzzle yarn into Walmart. I really want to be able to buy blooms and citrus from Walmart because it's cheaper and I don't have to pay for shipping. And just as an aside, maybe you rename Hangman. When you're just shopping at Walmart, the name can be taken out of context. Not your finest moment, but I forgive you. So those are just some of my reflections on marketing challenges that I have seen. These are all in my opinion. Just my opinion, just one person as a consumer witnessing what happens in the world. And it should be said that I am not good at marketing illuminating souls either. People in glass houses and all that jazz. I don't like marketing. It is not my favorite thing. I just want to show up and be me and have everybody live happily ever after. I'm not good at applying what I know to my own business, which is why I don't do much in the way of marketing. I just let people know what I'm doing, and if they want to join in, that's awesome. So, just a little reflection from the Wayback Machine of marketing faux pas, marketing challenges, and what on earth are they thinking? So, hopefully this kept you amused. I don't know that this is my normal uplifting content, but it's also not horribly dark. I just thought this would make a funny episode. So I hope you enjoyed. Perhaps you're sleeping by now. I'm so grateful for the gift of you. I wish you the sweetest of dreams, and we'll talk again soon. Thank you.